I can understand how people would perceive my behavior. I can understand that. Because I put myself in the shoes of the taxpayers, and if they were to look at the few incidents that we've had, I could understand they would say he may have a problem. I can assure you, I am not an alcoholic. I am not a drug addict. Have I drank? Have I done drugs? Yes, I have. But it's self-inflicted, and I hope, Councillor Mammoliti, I hope that nobody goes through what I have gone through in the last few months.
So there has been more breaking news on the legal front with potentially explosive consequences. It has to do with the release of more court documents. Let's turn to Andrew Nichols now for more on this. Andrew, what have we learned today?
So what we've learned, Reshmi, is that it's Mr. Justice Nordheimer who says that a lot of these redacted documents, you'll remember that there was information to obtain a search warrant, and there were redacted documents for Sandra Lisi, who was the mayor's occasional driver and friend. What we have prepared, what our lawyers as well as an outside counsel have prepared for us, is a summary of the now unredacted portions of that pertaining to the mayor. What is this? It is police investigations, police interviews with staff members of the mayor, many of them who are now former staff members. You'll remember the resignations that took place in the spring after allegations of this infamous crack video surfaced, and here is what some of the paraphrased elements are from lawyers, and I'm going to read a couple of them to you that may be of interest. So this one refers to Payman Abdoulaye. He was an associate of Sandra Lisi, all right? And this is from an interview with Chris Fickle, who's a former staffer of Mayor Ford. Abdoulaye said he was worried about the mayor because he did a lot of coke and that he's seen Ford do coke. Abdoulaye said one time they were asked to leave a place because Ford was out of control and high on coke. Just going to say one more time, these are not charges. These are just interviews with people that were working with the mayor, staffers, former staffers. This is what they said, okay? Another interview with Chris Fickle on June 28th. This is what police say. They were told, Fickle bought alcohol for Ford 7 to 10 times. When he worked with Toohey, Mark Toohey, the former chief of staff who was fired back in the spring, he never did that. Other staffers also bought alcohol for Ford, which was a regular occurrence, maybe 10 times per month. He has never seen Ford drink at the office, but he has seen Ford drunk at the office. He's never seen Ford misuse prescription drugs. Another interview with Chris Fickle. Fickle was driving in Ford's car with Abdoulaye talking about football when Ford pulled over and drank a Mickey of vodka back and forth with Gatorade in about 2 minutes. This is an interview with Mark Toohey. Mayor was very drunk on St. Paddy's Day at Beer Market Bar. Earl Provost, the former deputy chief, who's now the chief of staff, Earl Provost told Toohey that he saw Ford take OxyContin. Toohey was told Ford got into a physical altercation with two staffers back at his office that night. Provost took him home in a taxi. Ford wanted Provost to leave the taxi so he could set up a meeting to go somewhere else or do something. When Provost refused, Ford got in his car when they got to his house and drove off. And finally, this last one, this is an interview with Isaac Ransom, who was a former special assistant in communications who also quit in the spring. This is what police say they were told by Isaac Ransom. The night of March 17th, 2012, Ransom was called to the office at about 9 p.m. Ford was there with Peter Cordes, who was an occasional driver to the mayor, Barnett, referring to Brooks Barnett, who quit last week. He was a senior policy advisor, and a woman named Alana, who may have been an escort or prostitute. Ford had drunk half a 40-ounce bottle of vodka when Ransom arrived, and Ford was out of it. Ford talked about getting hammered and getting laid that night. So those are just some of the pieces of information. Again, these are not charges. These are interviews that police did with staffers or former staffers. This is what police are telling us. And what I just read you there was a summary or paraphrasing from our lawyer that because the judge has now made these documents public, we are able to report them to you.
All right. Thank you, Andrew. Now, Ford was prepared for a tough session at Toronto City Council meeting, and that's exactly what he is getting. This morning, there were some heated exchanges between the mayor and those calling for him to step aside. The session is still ongoing. Lorenda Redekop is there tracking these developments. So what's happening there now?
Well, what they've been doing, Reshmi, is debating both that motion that we've heard so much about, calling for the mayor to step aside, as well as another one that's come up, which is instead calling on the integrity commissioner to get involved. And that's Gord Perks who's put forward that motion. And then he was attacked by another councillor who said, well, I think every councillor should go in for drug testing and that there should be drug testing made mandatory. Gord Perks did not respond to that question. There were, it was loud, definitely loud in council as all that was going on. Now, that other motion that I mentioned, which is the one we've heard so much about, comes from Denzil Minnan-Wong, and that there are three recommendations that it makes. One, for him to step aside. Two, for the mayor to make an apology for misleading the city of Toronto, and then thirdly, that he cooperate with police. We know that he does not plan to do that, and so that's why some councillors are pretty hesitant to go along with that motion and to support it, because they say it won't mean anything. And in any case, we know that they can't force him out. Here's a little bit more of some of the exchange that the mayor had with Denzil Minnan-Wong.
Mr. Mayor, do you still have zero tolerance for drugs, guns, and gangs?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, can you tell me how that applies to you?
I just answered that question.
Mr. Mayor, have you purchased illegal drugs in the last 2 years?
Yes, I have.
Certainly, it took him a while to get to that answer, but that answer did come. He was also asked whether he believed he was addicted to alcohol. He said absolutely not. He also said absolutely not to whether he was addicted to drugs.
Okay, and plenty more highlights from today.
Well, we also heard more about that. What police have alleged in their documents is a crack house. The mayor responded to questions about that. And now that is that house that's pictured when the mayor is pictured with three young men. They are standing right in front of that house. And two of those young men are now facing criminal charges. The third one was killed a few months ago. And here is a little bit more from the mayor and Councillor Michael Thompson.
It is not a crack house. Have you visited the house? Have you walked in the house?
No, actually,
no,
I
you
have
haven't.
not, and I have no
so
interest,
you're listening to what the media says?
Is it a completed
Mayor Ford,
basement?
please.
No, I'm not going to answer the question.
But allow Councillor Thompson
I
to
get
ask
to
the
ask the
question.
questions. Thank you. You get to answer, Mayor.
I'm answering, but you don't want to hear my answer.
Actually, you're not being truthful. That's my
I'm not being
problem
truthful.
with
Have you
respect
been
to
into
your
that
answer.
house?
I have no interest in being in that house. I'm not a crack user.
So,
And so we expect a whole lot more of that to come this afternoon. Stay tuned.
All right, Lorenda, thank you. We will.